All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Roderick Lewis and Stephanie McIntyre from University Career Services. And we want to thank you for attending our webinar today on the Faculty Career Champions Program. And, we're really excited about launching this program. As I stated in the information I've sent to you earlier this summer, we realize this is a very odd year, it's a very difficult year um, with a lot of challenges that our not only our university is facing, but our students, staff, faculty, our external partners. And so, we do acknowledge that and we realize that this is a very tiring, exhausting, difficult year for everyone involved. And we realize the load that is on our faculty partners. And we just want to acknowledge that when we launched this program, we took all of that into consideration. We've been thinking about this actually for over a year now. This program was part of our strategic plan. We really wanted to look at how we could, make sure that as faculty, your role is so important in the university. Students don't come here because of career services. We are part of the student experience, but no student is saying, "Hey, I'm just going to UNC Chapel Hill just because I want to go visit career services." They come here for the academic learning, the academic enrichment, and then all of the other experiences that you get as a student that include career services, that include leadership and club involvement, civic engagement, community engagement, all of the other things, fraternity life that just come as a part of that experience that create these well-rounded students that are in demand in the marketplace. And we realized that in order for us to accomplish the goals that we have, that in the ways that we support our students, that's not separate from our faculty partners. In fact, it has to be integrated and embedded, and we have to work more in concert. And there are things that we have to do in terms of a model as we've transitioned to these new models. We may be the owners of certain resources, so to speak. We may manage certain processes, but that does not mean that we are the ones that need to be the only mouthpiece that a student hears, right? And so what we want to do is position ourselves as, advisors, consultants, support, ways to help our faculty partners, do their jobs even better and support them in mutually beneficial goals. And so to that end, that's what we want to, bring up discuss the Faculty Career Champions Program, what it means, how it is aligned with academic goals, how it supports, academic learning outcomes, and we want to show you that with the resources that we have, with the staff that we have available, with the projects and plans that we have, it is a mutually beneficial way for us to scale the support that we provide to students, because students shouldn't only hear about careers or postgraduate, opportunities only from people that wear the title of career services or that work in the career services department, right? That message should be embedded throughout the entire student experience, because we all have a stake in our students, having postgraduate success and whatever that is, and vice versa. When we talk to students, we are also highlighting the importance of their academic skills that they learn. What they learn in their general education classes, but also what they learn in their academic major classes, in addition to other types of experiential learning and leadership development, because that is what makes a well-rounded student. And those very skills are what employers are ultimately paying for. What we do, we help the professional piece. We help students be able to articulate what they learn in the classroom and translate that to what the type of language that an employer can hear. So we help them to be able to more easily translate that. We help them to learn how to position themselves and take what they learn in the classroom, all the practicums and projects and things that they do in the classroom. So we want to help them be able to communicate and brand that. So working in partnership with our faculty is going to be key to doing that. So in this time that we have together, we're going to spend like the first 30 or 40 minutes or so going over the Faculty Career Champions program, what that looks like, at other institutions, an overview of some of the areas for collaboration that we have in mind with UCS, and then what's next and where do we begin. And then we'll have a Q&A where we want you to enter any questions that you may have in the Q&A bar. And so we would see that, and then myself or Stephanie McIntyre would be able to answer those questions. And any questions that we don't answer or get to today, please feel free to send me an email, and then I will respond promptly to that. So with that, I'm going to just introduce myself real quickly, and then I'm going to let Stephanie introduce herself, and then we will begin the presentation. So most of you know me because I've been sending you the communications since last year. A lot of communications I would send out about our major events, our major fairs, and so a lot of you have gotten information from me, or we've already had some communications. So my name is Roderick Lewis. I work in University Career Services. I'm the External Relations Director, and what that means is I lead all of the programming and events that engage our employers, alumni, and parents and family to support our students in a number of ways, from career development to what we call on-campus recruitment. So, and then anywhere in between, we support our faculty and staff in a number of initiatives using that lens of employers, alumni, and parents and families. So that can be from sponsorship to specific, programs or partnerships with employers, or any number of events and career fairs. So with that, I will turn it over to Stephanie and let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon. I am Stephanie McIntyre, Associate Director of Career Education. My primary role is to provide oversight over our programming, our one-on-one counseling, and all student engagement efforts to support our undergraduate and graduate student populations. With that said, we have several different frameworks that we work from, and I'll talk a little bit more in future slides around our NACE career readiness competencies. That serves as our foundation in looking at the readiness of our students, the experiences that they're gaining both on and off campus through engagement with you guys in the classroom, and how that prepares them to get in front of employers. So the work of myself and our student-facing team is to support students in truly reflecting upon the experiences that they're receiving, their education, and how that allows them to be quite marketable for whether or not they're going into future education, graduate or professional schools, or in industry. So thank you, and I look forward to answering some questions about that.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. So, I want to give you an overview of, what is a faculty, career champions program, and also, our specific UCS, not our specific, I shouldn't say our UCS 3-year plan, but this is our 3-year plan for the faculty career champions program. Just a brief overview of what is a faculty career champions program, if you don't know, is basically a collaboration between faculty and a career center to support, mutually beneficial student learning outcomes. And so we do that in a number of ways, and it can be through activities that you as faculty already have planned in the class, but adding an alumni component to that, or adding an employer component to that, or adding a career staff, a career coach, or career counselor to come into the class to conduct a specific activity that allows your students to also marry what they're learning from the academic component of your class with the career professional resources that we have. So it could be a number of those partnerships that we're going to detail later that involve connecting students with resources that we have, making sure that, to the extent possible, if you have, certain projects in your classroom, like a capstone, or if you have any major projects where you identify, hey, it could be beneficial to have an employer voice on this, so students get the real world kind of aspect of how this could be, how what you're teaching can be translated to specific projects or roles within the organization. Then those types of collaborations, universities have found that they're very useful in how students are engaged, not only in the academic classroom, but how students are engaged in their career, which creates positive outcomes for the entire institution, right? And so it's a win-win situation. And one of the things we know, and we don't take this for granted, that our faculty do a lot of this already. So the establishment of this program is not to say, oh, the faculty are just not doing anything, so we have to create it. Quite the opposite. What we want to do is formalize that process, because now we have no means to recognize, and even what we want to do is reward our faculty who students do tell us, hey, I love this class because this particular professor was very instrumental in my career objectives or my career goal, or connecting me with an alumni. So we realized our faculty have a lot of connections with employers and alumni that we don't even have in career services. And oftentimes we have data to show that students are more likely to go to their faculty, whether it be a professor or advisor or someone within the department, before they even come to career services. So, you have more of the student facing role than anyone on campus. And so one of the things that when we look at, the genesis of this type of program, it really is, hey, how do we formalize the activities that are probably ongoing and then the ones that are not, so that we can really maximize and leverage the strategies and resources and programs and projects that we have in university career services to better align that with the total student experience, beginning with our faculty partners. And so if you look at year one, all we want to do in year one is establish the foundation, right? So that's what I call year one is foundations. And so we've already done that first stage, was identifying the interested faculty. And so we sent the survey out to hundreds and hundreds of faculty. So got the contacts of most of the our professors, just going through the website. My intern did a wonderful job of doing that. Then I sent a survey this summer, and I got about 80 responses back from people who were interested in being part of this inaugural faculty career champions program. So thank you for that. The number of people who weren't able to attend today, this is recorded, so they did register, so they will receive that recording afterwards. And then what we also want to do this year, this academic year, is identify those areas of interest. And so that was that survey I sent out with those 7 key areas that myself and Stephanie identified could be areas of interest for us to begin some initial discussions around. And then out of that, we want to identify what are some low complex, kind of low hanging fruit projects that we could, initiate this year to begin working and to begin kicking off this pilot, this inaugural year of the Faculty Career Champions Program. Year two, we want to take it a step further. So we want to move from foundations to collaboration, right? And so collaboration is a more closely, what means more working closely together more intentionally, right? So we want to establish some training workshops for our faculty career champions, and have some online modules or in-person modules if we ever get back to that place, to where our faculty are highly equipped with the tools and resources they need to have certain conversations with students around their career and professional goals that are aligned with the same message that we are also saying, right? So you don't have to be experts in it. We're not asking that. It's just knowing when to refer them to career services, or what resources to refer them to. So just giving some basic training around that, much like human resources gives us all training around various things that the institution says, hey, you need to be aware of where these resources lie so that you can refer someone to them at the appropriate time. We would love to have you as faculty invite UCS staff to observe your classroom, just so we learn more about what you teach. We're able to educate ourselves, because that helps the conversations that we have with students. It helps the conversations that we have with our employer partners and our alumni and our parents and family. So when I'm talking to employers, I talk a lot about the academics. I talk about what students are learning in the classroom, right? So I'm not talking about just what they're learning from a career services standpoint. I talk about, hey, this is what they're learning in their major, and here's what they're learning around, data analytics, or around critical thinking, around, ways to synthesize information or manage, projects or communications or any number of academic skills. So I'm selling that big time, because that is the key selling point, right? It's not just the resume. It's like, okay, the resume has to get populated with things they're learning, not only from an experiential standpoint, but also things they're learning from an academic standpoint. We also want to do in year two, we want your support in identifying your underrepresented students, and also students who may be disengaged, because there are ways that we can collaborate to support those students and help them to not only be engaged in the classroom, but also engaged in their career. So there's, a lot of research based on, connecting how some students, they, when they're connected with something where they consider is more hands-on or some real world objective, then it helps them to better connect with the academic and theoretical learnings, because now they can visually see how it would support their professional goals. And so that could be involved, or can involve us, connecting students with mentors, alumni, any of our employer events, some of our resources, specific activities, assignments that we have in career resources. So any number of things, but we can really support those students. And so basically, you know, looking at ways to leverage all of your resources as faculty, so you don't have to try to take the load on and do everything, but really look at some students where you say, you know, this student may benefit from being more engaged with career services. So I'm going to, you know, get that student, you know, some assignments that they have to do with career services, and then we can take it from there. So, you know, I used to be an educator at the K through 12 level, and those were some things that we would do in terms of how we would meet to identify these kind of students that were falling behind and lagging. And so we want to have that intervention early, and we could be partners in that. And those are mutually beneficial goals for us as well, because we have strategies to support our underrepresented student groups, you know, not only majors, but also ethnic groups and racial groups, and then our disengaged students, right? Then finally, in year 3, we want to move to integration. And so what I mean by integration, we want to be embedded in the course design, right? So we want to, you know, it's like building a house. We want to have that foundation. We want to be built in from the beginning. So we want to get to a point where we're talking at the earliest possible juncture about when you're designing your syllabus or course for that particular, you know, upcoming year, what are the ways that you want to embed the resources that career services offers, right? And that's from the student facing side to the employer and alumni facing side. What types of career projects will be, you know, graded that you do in collaboration with us, or career activities that you can make available for students to have extra credit on, or things like that. You know, what types of reports or data will we be able to receive from you, and vice versa provide to you. So we have a wonderful, you know, person on our team, one of my other counterparts in leadership, Dr. Nadia Korobova, who handles all of our assessments and reporting, and she will be supporting this initiative, this program, with the work that she does. And so this involves, you know, being able to provide your department or your classroom reports on how your students are doing from a career outcome standpoint, from a career engagement standpoint, but also at a department-wide level on where do your students end up post-graduation? Where do your students end up year 3, year 4 in their academic journey? How many are engaged in internships? So we can get you that granular data at not only a classroom level, but also department level. And what does that mean for you? So that means, you know, attracting more students to your program, right? And so that's one thing from a career services standpoint. We get good at marketing because we have to attract students to utilize our resources. And we do that with data, we do that with visuals, we do that with graphics, we do that with software. So we have Tableau. We have a number of ways that we can present these visual graphics and data to show, hey, students that major in X, here are their outcomes, and here's some alumni, and here's where they're working. So imagine, you know, with these decision makers of students, which are the parents and family, that even I have a strategy for it, because parents and family are key even for the work that I do in terms of, you know, employer and event engagement, student engagement. And so also faculty and departments, they also have that parents and family strategy, because parents and family are asking questions. Hey, if my child studies X major, what does this mean for career outcomes and salary and opportunities? And what don't, you know, how are you, you know, supporting them on campus, and what mechanisms are there to support my student? So we want to make sure that we support you in that and provide you that data, and vice versa, get any data that you can provide us so that we can enrich that data even more for your departments and your classroom levels, because that helps you plan and make decisions as well. So, you know, I want to briefly show you this slide. It's just the intersection of learning outcomes frameworks. So you have your CAS, AAC&U, and NACE, which Stephanie is going to talk about in a minute. NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and we subscribe to NACE. So this is our professional organization. And if you look at these career readiness competencies, they really do align with these general learning outcomes frameworks from CAS and AAC&U. So there's some key areas where there's alignment, from global intercultural fluency, you know, humanitarian civic engagement, knowledge of human cultures. There's distinct alignment there, right? Interpersonal competence, personal social responsibility. For NACE, we have teamwork, collaboration, and leadership. Cognitive complexity, right? So you start thinking about your critical thinking and all of that, intellectual and practical skills. So if you look at it, the career services and career and professional development that we specifically manage within the University of Career Services, it's not so different from the academic, you know, skills that you as faculty are embedding and teaching in your courses. So it's just that we're looking through different lenses. That's the only thing, right? And so, but we're taking what you're doing in the classroom And employers want that as well. We're just helping students to translate that and articulate it in a different way. That's the only difference, right? We're helping them, we're building on what you do and helping them to translate that and articulate that and utilize that as they develop leadership skills and other experiential learning types of skills, okay? So I wanted to just briefly show you that so you know that we are part and parcel of the same ecosystem and environment, which is to support student experience and student learning outcomes and student, postgraduate outcomes. This is just an example of, a 4-year. So, there are a lot of workshops that talk about, so NACE does a lot of workshops on faculty, and career center, partnerships and model and championship career programs and things like that. And so this is just an example of that, like a 4-year academic plan. And so this slide, they talk about academic planning is career development. And I want to give Stephanie a minute just to talk about what she's doing around a 4-year plan with careers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roderick. As career services professionals, reflect on career development theory, college student development theory, in order to be not necessarily responsive, but proactive to how we develop career curriculum that looks at the developmental steps of each one of our students. And from our demographics of UNC Chapel Hill, we know 96% or plus of our undergraduate populations come in at a very traditional entry age to college and leave within 4 years. Based on having that information, having a traditional 4-year plan model in which we identify how we support students upon their admissions into the institution, throughout their matriculation and up until graduation, allows us to be very intentional in the work that we do, which could also align wonderfully with our extended partnership with you. As we look at how college students develop and become ready for employment and graduate level and professional level opportunities, we look at in their first year the value in them developing self-awareness. Before anyone can make substantive decisions around their future, it has to be based on first self-information. We have a multitude of resources that help students do that, and one is our Focus 2 Career Planning Assessment. It's actually our academic to career planning assessment that aligns with the academic majors already offered at UNC Chapel Hill. But this allows students to develop a sense of self-awareness, to truly reflect on their skill sets, their strengths, their preferences, and how that aligns with the academic major of their choice, their minor, the courses that they're taking, and the work that they do both inside and outside of the classroom, on campus, and beyond. Once students have a wonderful sense of self through the work that they're doing with you in partnership with us, as they enter into their sophomore year, in their sophomore year, what we want to do is support them in now getting some occupational knowledge, understanding the options that exist broadly for career paths. Them developing this understanding can then allow it to then be coupled with what they know about themselves, so that students will be able to truly articulate that as they begin to consider and pursue different paths, that it's aligned with their ability to speak about their strengths, their interests, and their abilities that align with the types of workplaces that they're most interested in. By the 3rd year, we really think about high impact experiences, because once now as a student knows a lot about themselves and a bit about different types of career paths, we want them to try on opportunities for size. Then this can come in the form of formalized internships, but this can also come in the form of volunteer opportunities, work study positions, research and leadership opportunities that they're engaged with within your department or in your classroom, global experiences as well, to truly be able to integrate a multicultural perspective into the work that students will be able to do both now and in the future. So as students take now these experiences, they now have much more ability to market themselves, to be able to speak with substance around how what they are currently doing or what they've done throughout their 3 to 4 years now is marketable to internship and employment opportunities, or as if they are considering graduate or professional level education. What we do with students is help them to reflect on these opportunities, communicate in industry-specific language, both on their resume and cover letter and through interviewing, to make sure that what they bring to the table is in alignment with what employers are looking for. And as I speak a little bit later to those NACE career readiness competencies, you'll see some overlap between some of the things that you're already teaching in the class. So by that fourth year, the ultimate goal is for students to be highly marketable and ready to enter into industry.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that overview. And so, when we think about, what Stephanie just talked about, it should resonate with you how aligned that we are with the academic program. Like we leverage that, we stand on the shoulders of the academic programming. So what you teach, what you do in the classroom, we've all been students. And so we stand on the shoulders of that, and we are trying to help students to really leverage that and translate that to the language that employers will understand or that professional schools will understand, right? Because they want to know, okay, so what did you learn in your undergraduate? What were those experiences, and how is that going to make you the type of professional or graduate student that we want to admit into our program? So in the next slide, this is just an example, for a model for a student experience, at college or university. And the reason I wanted to show you this slide briefly was just to show the intersection of everything. So there's nothing mutually exclusive, right? What happens over years and decades, things got splintered, right? The university was all about academics in the beginning. And you had all these additional programs, all these student services, and all these things about, well-being of students and careers and professional development, and started to get, outside of just pure academics, because the universities had to serve the whole holistic needs of the student. But by no means are they separate. And that's the thing. We have to, we look at the whole person. These are part of the whole person. This is the person that shows up in your classroom, right? They have, issues in their personal life. They're going to be, thinking about, how they navigate a multicultural environment, or, what their brand or what that means to them, and, how they show up in the professional space. They're going to be thinking about, jobs at some point, whether they're thinking about it early in their academic journey or later. But at some point, they will be thinking about, what do I need to do from an income standpoint, right? At some point. And so everything is connected. And so we just wanted to highlight that with this slide. And then at this next slide, this is getting into UNC Chapel Hill now, to the general education learning outcomes. And I thought it was important just to show this. I use this slide a lot. I use this information a lot when I'm, planning and looking at the activities that we do with our internal stakeholders on campus, with our faculty, our student, club leaders, and our staff, and really looking at this connections component. So the making connections curriculum, and looking at, the experience for education. What is it uniquely that I can do as leader of the external relations team to make sure that, I'm connecting with our faculty, that they know who we are, they know resources we can provide to support any experiential component that they have in their class or maybe planning in their class. This extends beyond just your internship credit courses, but anything. I've had professors reach out and say, hey, we're going to be I'm going to invite an alumni to do an event in the classroom. Can you help, secure an additional, person from XYZ company? Just things like that, where the professor already had some plans to have an experiential component. They may have just wanted some additional people to come, and they didn't have time to go out and try to do all that outreach. We can do the outreach, because that's what we do. Or sometimes it's just having resources. I've had professors reach out and say, hey, can you send some of your career services resources so that I can hand them out to our students? We supported mock interviews, or we supported, a number of types of projects and programs. So just wanted to show that, as this is baked into the Chapel Hill general education learning outcomes, this is areas where we can show up. But also beyond that, for our professors who are major specific. So if you look at, just this part here, where you're teaching, the academic major courses, we have a place there too, right? And I would argue even more important in the major, because I think a lot of times we are relegated to the general education component, and then sometimes people forget, like, no, we actually need to be in that major component too. So for professors who only teach major classes, that are specific to that degree, then we definitely want to make sure that you know we're here to support you as well. And that could be in any number of ways. You know, we get to your capstones or you know, any consulting projects or just anything that you feel that can add value to your students that would better connect them to what you're trying to teach them. And those are the areas that we want to talk about as we advance in this presentation today. Next, I just wanted to show you some quick examples of other universities. So, like I said, you know, faculty and career center partnerships are not new. It's just what we, you know, wanted to be new at Chapel Hill. We wanted to be formalized at Chapel Hill because we want to, as my boss always says, we want to be leaders in the field. We don't want to be the laggards. We want, you know, this is UNC Chapel Hill. We have such a great brand. And so we want to lead in our areas, not just research, you know, not just the things that UNC Chapel is known for in healthcare and the global footprint in the community. We feel that, you know, we can be leaders everywhere in all parts of our department. So looking at some of these credit bearing experiential learning opportunities or programs at other universities that they do in partnership with their faculty, here's some, you know, things that we hope to advance to a stage where we have a guide like this where we can show, hey, here are all the multiple ways that we are, you know, partnering with our faculty. And we have a lot of internship credit courses, but we want to build out something like this where we really show that, hey, we can market this and show what we're really doing in this area. And then the next slide is from Indiana University. And so their outreach to their career champions, what they look at is, you know, how do they, you know, get started in terms of inviting alumni. So really a lot of times people at universities, we miss that alumni component. We miss how important that alumni component is to current students. So if faculty are like the gold standard in terms of student facing, who students are going to listen to, then alumni are probably next on that list. Because alumni have been through that journey. And so students would tend to listen to their professors and alumni. They probably won't listen to me as much because they just look at me as, okay, well, I don't really know you, but I know you're the person that is, you know, providing, you know, helping us with these events and fairs, but I'm not talking to them all the time. Whereas faculty, they have to see you every day. You're getting assignments from them, like you're a part and parcel to their academic journey. Alumni have been there. So when they want to, you know, oh, you've been in this class before, oh, you're a graduate, oh, you work in this employer. So they're more apt to listen to our, you know, alumni. So we want to start promoting alumni to the extent that we can, you know, in embedding them in things that you may be doing in your classroom as it relates to some of the programming that you have. What that does is it helps them to be able to articulate those skills a lot better, which Stephanie's team works on, helping students to be able to translate from the classroom to the boardroom, so to speak. And then from my lens, in addition to alumni, is, you know, these networking opportunities with employers and with our alumni. You know, how do we help, you know, how can faculty help us to get students to engage more in these opportunities, right? So at the number of students we serve, over 30,000, our cup really should be running over when we have these events. But what happens is that's not the case. And that's because a lot of times that messaging only comes from us. And when that messaging only comes from us, then it's not, it doesn't have the legs and the support that it needs to convince students that it is a valuable use of their time and that it's something that's valued by their faculty or valued, you know, by employers. You know, they need to hear it in multiple, I would say, medium and not just from the career services people, right? So it's just like diversity and inclusion. I always say, you know, diversity and inclusion offices share a lot in common with your university and career services office. From the standpoint of a D&I department would be very small, and a lot of times the burden gets placed on them to do everything, right? To have to do all things that are D&I related, whereas D&I should be the embedded in everybody. Like everybody should have a role in speaking about D&I, or at least, you know, identifying where D&I can be supported within their department or within their class or whatever that looks like. So it's not just, well, I didn't hear it from the D&I department, so I don't want to hear it. It's like, no, you're hearing it from, you know, everybody, you know, from the janitor to the president of the institution. Everybody can talk about D&I initiatives, whether they work in D&I or not. And that's how we want to get with career services. At least having that conversation, at least when they hear it from you, it's coming from your mouth, from a faculty, from a student. I remember when I was a student, anything my faculty said, it was gold, because I said, oh, this is the professor, like, this is why I'm here. And so if it's important to them, then I took it as being important. So this is just a good example showing that. The final example I have is from my neighbors in South Carolina. So they have a faculty career champion program and a staff career champion program as well. And it's divided into two parts. And so they have the part where they do training that Stephanie's team would lead around career and major outcomes. And so really, helping our faculty partners understand, the NACE career readiness guidelines and understand, what NACE is and how that's, how that can support the efforts that they do in the classroom. Learning, like I said, how to make referrals to the Career Center, assisting students with goal setting. So a number of those things that Stephanie's team does, but we want to make sure that our faculty know that, hey, those resources exist. And so as faculty, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we can be consistent with the type of language that we are sharing with students and that we promote in our communications to students. And then they hear the same thing from you, and it reinforces our messaging, right? Then with our experience outcomes, the same thing, just a different side of the coin. So this is more in my area. And so now we're getting around the experiential part of the education. How do we, help students to gain experience in their major or in, that aligns with their career goals? What type of resources do we have in the Career Center to support that knowledge, and what types of connections can we make? So I thought South Carolina had a good model, and I've been in touch with them as well. But I'm not copycatting any models. What I'm doing is looking at how these different models work and how they've been successful, pros and cons, good and bad. And then looking at what can we at UNC Chapel Hill create that is unique for our community, for our ecosystem, for what works for us, right? So when we do that, it's more sustainable because we're going to do a grassroots creation based on what will work for us, okay? And you're going to be a part of that. So it won't be just Stephanie, myself, or my leadership team just say, hey, here's what the program is going to look like. We're going to build it together. We want your input and your voice so that it's sustainable. Now, these were the areas for collaboration that I sent you in the survey back in, I believe it was late May, and that I had about 70 to 80 people respond to and select from these 7 areas on ways that we could begin embedding or integrating career and professional development resources within your courses and within the plans that you have. And so real briefly, just look at these real quick because on the next slide, we're going to go through them. And what they're divided between, some are just under my purview, others are just under Stephanie McIntyre's purview. And then there are some that are joint, that we both have joint roles in. So what we want to do is just take a couple of minutes to just, high level overview of those. They want to leave some time for Q&A if you have any questions, and then we'll talk about next steps. So this first one, learn, it was for Stephanie. So Stephanie, if you could go over this first one, just give a high level overview, please.
Absolutely. Learn about National Association of Colleges and Employers Career Readiness Competencies. So I mentioned NACE competencies as really part of our foundation. It's a framework for how we engage with students. I'll give you a little bit of background and history around how these career readiness competencies came to be. Several years ago, a partnership between career centers and employers that are a part of NACE pulled together for a research project in which they surveyed employers representing multiple industries and different types of companies to truly get their voice and understand what types of skill sets employers, talent acquisitions professionals are looking for in recent college graduates. And so we've learned a lot from that, and what that has helped us do is to truly hone in on how we help students identify whether or not they have those skills, reflect on how they want to communicate those skills in alignment with the needs of companies and organizations. So regardless of your academic discipline, the department you represent, the subject matter expertise that you represent, in one way or another, you are presenting students with opportunities to develop these competencies. So critical thinking, communications, teamwork, think about how these skill sets are coming alive based on the content and the education that you provide. Technology, leadership and collaboration, work ethic, decision-making around career and future decisions. So think about how your content aligns with those pieces and the experiences that students are having in the classroom. What we want to be able to do is partner with you in thinking about components of your syllabi, things that are really embedded in your curriculum that can allow us to have a partnership where we recognize the classroom engagement piece and how we can couple that with professional development opportunities. Throughout the past 2 years since I've been in UCS, I've been able to track close to 100 campus partners that has then represented over 2,000 students that have engaged with us just through opportunities for us to be in the classroom to outline these competencies and to support faculty in learning them. But as Roderick was saying, as we get from the foundations to collaboration to true integration, that's where we're going to see the most success, with you really being able to identify these NACE competencies, aligning them with particular lessons and modules and content within your class, which is going to tie them back to our office.
Thank you, Stephanie. The next one is about, how can, University Career Services support our faculty in areas of research, capstone projects, and course design, okay? And so this is under my purview. So this is employer engagement. And what we mean by that is that I have organizations, maybe over 1,000 organizations, over 1,000 contacts easily at any point in time. And a lot of them are really looking at ways to connect with faculty. And so even for them, from a campus engagement, from a brand building, from an institutional standpoint from the employer side, they want to connect with faculty. They want to engage with students in what I call non-OCR connections. So these are more of your transformative connections. Recruitment is more transactional, right? That is like if we have a recruitment event, a career fair, those are very transactional. Information sessions, it's a transaction. People are expected to bring resumes and discuss job opportunities. And our recruitment activities, these are termed more career development. And so employers look at, hey, what are some ways that we can extend the relationship and really change how students and faculty think about us as employers? How can we be part of the education process? What are ways that we can support the learning outcomes of these students so that they look at us as an employer of choice? And even if they don't want to work with us, they have a positive experience with us, they may refer us to their network or a colleague who could be a potential recruit for us, because their purview, their lens, ultimately is talent acquisition, right? They do want to hire these students because of the wonderful things that they're taught, the brand, and the alumni that we have. It's built, this demand. And so there are ways that, we can connect them with, capstone projects or, even things within course design. And I'll give an example. I was working with some professors in the school of, it was the physics and something. I can't remember the physics, applied physics and engineering, I believe it was. But they were planning to develop a new course, a new undergraduate major, and they wanted to get some employer feedback in that course design. So they didn't want to develop that course in isolation. So they asked me, hey, can you identify some employers who typically would hire these types of majors so that we can get them at the table to start talking to us about, what are the things that they want to see in the course as we design it, and would they be, partnering with us to hire these students for internships and eventually full-time jobs. So I thought that was a wonderful partnership and a wonderful way to get employer voice in there early, because if employers have some skin in the game, they're going to say, yeah, we want to recruit these students because we were part of the process in developing the course. So those are those ways that we can partner in that area. And next, Stephanie, you're up next.
Okay, we also want you to partner with us to add career-related assignments to your syllabus, which will obviously increase engagement of students with our office. This has happened in many different ways. So one of the other pieces that's under my purview is to manage what we call UCS in the classroom, or our workshop, career workshop, or presentation request process. Many of you have probably already engaged in that process, or have heard some of your colleagues who have. And what essentially this is an opportunity for you to think about a way that we can come into the classroom, speak about a specific topic, or what also happens a lot of times is then, and coupled with that, you have opportunities to then send your students back to us by way of the content that we presented, to engage in a mock interview series, career readiness in job search, resume review, cover letter reviews. And this is an opportunity for students within your course to develop strong relationships with career counselors based on a specific subject matter or a series of content. This has happened with us in partnership with courses within the School of Education, Psychology, English, even nursing, and some of our graduate programs such as pharmacology, where over the past academic year, I went in each month and spoke to students within this professional program around a series of topics, which would then end in a culminating experience that would prepare those students to more effectively network with alumni within their industry. We had a wonderful experience with an English course that was aligned with business writing competencies, which allowed students to then reflect on their experiences and how they promote their brand and communication skills, and then tied it back into our mock interview series. And those are just a few examples of things that have already happened and ways that we can expand upon those pieces and make it very intentional for you and your experiences.
Thank you, Stephanie. And so in this next part, I'm going to be brief just in the interest of time. But what this gets into, this is for Stephanie, both of us. You know, we want to incentivize students to participate in career service events, activities, and initiatives. And the way faculty could support us on that is to help us, you know, and really help us to design some of these opportunities. So we're looking at gamification. How can we, you know, give students badges, any types of awards that will incentivize students to participate in any number of these events that, you know, would support their career goals. And one of the things that, you know, we want to do, even gamifying it for our faculty partners, is, you know, what can we as University Career Services give to you know, give to your classroom? What are things that, you know, if your classroom, imagine you say, hey, if we say, you know, for a particular classroom, you can get 60% of your students to attend, and we give you X prize, or, you know, whoever gets 70%. So we even want to make it fun for our faculty partners, and that will make it fun for the students to try to outdo some other department or a fellow professor, and just say, hey, we're going to see who can get the most students to attend X career event, or who can get the most students to have a complete handshake profile. I don't know if we mentioned Handshake, but Handshake is the database that we use to manage our jobs and counseling appointments and events and all of that. So that's the main tool that we use to connect students with employers and with our career advisors and counselors. So there are a number of things that we want to think about in that area. And Stephanie, I don't know if you want to add on that. I'll just go to the next one, which is, you know, co-designer. But if you want to add something to that one, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to also give an example of a program that really was an incentive to students that we've already been managing, and it's our Prepare for the Fair series. So as we really think about even partnering with you and having you support us in promoting this, we have asked students that they really take a closer look at the workshops and events that we offer each semester. And we have a series of events that we host before our career fairs, with support students in really thinking about all the ways that they need to develop and increase in order to show up well for our fairs. And through that, students were able to be tracked in their engagement over a number of events that they attended that would support them in having that readiness for our events or our career fairs. And they were able to receive a lapel pin, a pad folio, and then also have a special introduction to employers, allowing employers to know that them having that lapel pin denotes that they went through some extra training in order to be able to market themselves on the day of a career fair. So you knowing that can really help us promote engagement at our fairs even more. And that's an example of just one program that we initiated that was truly an incentive to students.
Yep, thank you, Stephanie. And next, we're talking about co-designing experiential learning activities that can complement classroom assignments and projects. And so this again is something that both Stephanie and I would support our faculty partners with. And it's really across these 6 areas. So we are developing virtual career tracks, and a number of departments have their own career tracks. What we're doing from a career services standpoint is making tracks available for all students. So it's not just department-based students. And job shadows, where students, you know, in particular departments or majors, we could connect them with, you know, employers or a professional to where they can do a virtual job shadow and just kind of understand what that job entails, what types of skills they need to use, what are things that they need to be aware of to prepare themselves for that type of job. We also have someone who supports the part-time job search for students. So a number of our students need to work while they're in school. And so we do have that available, and we help them to think about the skills they would gain working in part-time jobs and how to communicate that to employee partners or to graduate schools. And then the final three, Stephanie works with in terms of service learning, leadership, and study abroad. So Stephanie, want to just say a little bit about how you help students reflect on that and how we can, work in partnership with our faculty to support that?
Absolutely. To give some perspective, some of the biggest things that we see as a student-facing team in our students, it starts when we help students in developing their resume. And oftentimes students will say that they have not had enough experience to have a substantive resume. So through rapport building, we get out of them that many of them have had substantive experiences by way of many that we've just outlined, career tracks, part-time program or jobs that they've had on or off campus, engaged in service learning in the community through volunteerism, they've studied abroad, and a multitude of other things. And so what we wanted to do and have been doing a great job of is reframing what we mean by experience, because it can come in absolutely in the form of rotationals, leadership development programs, and internships, but students are gaining substantive experiences in a multitude of ways. And so we want students and we want you guys to support us in championing all the ways that students are engaged in high impact experiences so they recognize the value in them and that they work closely with us in order to be most effective in communicating and in marketing those experiences and the skill sets that they have developed as a result of those experiences as they're aligned with the values of whomever their new audience is, whether that's an employer representing a certain industry, whatever job function that they're now branding as their subject matter expertise, or if they're going into graduate level or furthered education.
Yeah. And remember, this is something we want to co-design with you. So we have some things that may be, in place, but if there's something where you say, hey, we want you to, reach out to us and use us as a service and look at us as a resource. So you may say, hey, I'd love to create a career track for my classroom. Just a 2-hour assignment or 3-hour assignment where we do a virtual career track or a job shadow. Hey, we've got some students I've identified that I think they benefit from a job shadow program. How can you help us with that? So look at us as a partner. Look at us as a resource. Final two, again, with Stephanie and I, we'll be brief with these. With the employer engagement, a big piece in terms of inviting career services, staff, employers, alumni to your class to discuss any career and industry topics. This is the way I can help you with that. The way we envision is, maybe just these 5-10 minute, just minimum 5-10 minute, 10 minutes max, I would say, having someone come to the classroom, whether it's virtual or in person, and really just giving a brief, high level overview introduction of, who they are and how they, how they align with whatever that topic is that you may be presenting for the day. If you want to give them longer, you can. But what I prep my employer partners on, I said, faculty, classroom time is very sacred, and a lot of times faculty have talked to and say, hey, the max I can give is 10 minutes. And so we've designed a 10-minute model if just to introduce and leave the contact information of that professional, whether it's alumni or employers, for students to follow up with, even any flyers or websites or whatever. If you have more time, then they can manage with that as well. But it's really to reinforce a particular topic that you may be discussing in the classroom. And you may say, hey, I'd like an employer to come in and reinforce this topic and talk about how it's used in the real world. Now, this doesn't have to be a technology. It could just be a behavior. It could be a specific geographic region of the world. It could be a business type. I mean, it could be any number of things that may align with what you are teaching. Or it could just be, hey, we want a general employer to come in and talk about how, they see XYZ showing up in their workplace or in whatever they work with, right? Or alumni as well. So there are a number of ways. And Stephanie, you can talk about real quickly what that means for you in terms of staff, career services staff.
Absolutely. I think the bottom line is the word that we've used a lot is integration. This is an integrative approach to supporting your students, a partnership, community engagement between us and you as our partners. And what that can look like is, number one, our students, our staff, our career counselors coming into your classroom to be able to disseminate information on a topic that is most aligned with maybe the education that you're providing currently within the classroom. As Roderick was saying, we see students often who kind of just compartmentalize every part of their experience, how they speak with their professors versus how they may engage with UCS, their partnership with alumni and beyond. We want to pull all those things together that helps them to truly understand that we're all in partnership together, and their experiences with one doesn't necessarily trump their experiences over the other, but ultimately it's truly going to support them in being able to market themselves best to employers. And so we look forward to really being a part of that process and helping you developing out your lessons and your modules. And when there is opportunity to insert topics that's related to their professional development, how that content is going to align with their next steps, we can truly be a part of that conversation and tie it back to our resources in UCS.
Okay. And the final area for collaboration that I sent out on the survey earlier this summer is really, learning how to refer employers, alumni, professional contacts to university career services and understanding the why. A lot of times, we run a lot of employment outcome surveys to figure out where do our students go after they leave UNC Chapel Hill. And there are a number that get their job opportunities through the direct activities that we manage in the career services, but there are a number who get the opportunities just through their own personal networks, through faculty relationships, through any number of means that we can't track. And so what we want to do is help, or encourage our faculty to refer any employers that they think or contacts they think would be useful for us to build a relationship from an institution-wide standpoint. And why that's important, it helps us to not only better track the data to where we can figure out where these students are going. But imagine this, imagine an employer that's hired 4 or 5 UNC Chapel Hill students, but then they receive no follow-up from us. They never hear from us. And so it's a missed opportunity just to show them, hey, we appreciate that you hired our students and we want to keep you aware of other ways that you can engage in our program. And so we want to create a platform to where you're able to refer those contacts to us to know how it's going to be used. So no, we don't abuse those contact information. We really just do a lot of relationship building, making sure they're aware of opportunities to engage with us in any number of ways, and just making sure that they know that we appreciate the connection that they have with our institution, and that we want to develop that long term as much as possible. And so you as faculty, play a role in that. One of the big projects I've been working on is to develop a campus-wide footprint of how our employer partners and alumni partners support, the hiring outcomes of our students, right? And so the only way I can do that is to know who all these contacts are, but we're limited in how much we can get just because, a lot of that data is self-reported by our students. So that's another area for collaboration that we look forward to, working with our partners on. But what's next? And so, we talk about next steps, it really is identifying this low-hanging fruit program. So after this, we'd love for you to send me an email, and I'll send an email to the all of the people that express interest, all the faculty that express interest in being part of this inaugural Champions program, to send me some specific, areas where you say, hey, here's where we would specifically like some help. Because I have the areas where you marked on the spreadsheet, and Stephanie, we will send you information on that. But we really want to identify some areas where we can start working on just low-hanging fruit for this fall, because really this fall and this academic year is about establishing a foundation. Then, how are we going to assess and report those outcomes? And so my colleague, Dr. Nadia Korobova, that's where she will come in and she will work with us on how to best assess and report these outcomes so that we're able to be speaking the same language when we're talking to our various stakeholders. And then also looking at how do we do feedback and continuous improvement. And then at the end of this first year or the first semester, we want to make sure that we get some awards and recognize our faculty champions. And it won't just be from the work you do with us, but we want to try to get, student feedback, because we want to make sure that you get recognized. Realize a lot of you have been doing a lot of work before we even sent anything out about a formal faculty career champions program. I think it's important that we recognize our champions, even everyone who's a part of this initial launch, and then whatever the way that is, whether that's on our website, through social media, through video, but we want to make sure that you're recognized. And so we really do thank you for the time that you have, been here today with us. We didn't leave a lot of time, unfortunately. I'm sorry for Q&A, but please follow up with me after this webinar. I want to be, sensitive of your time, respectful of your time as we are all ramping up for August 10th. So I'm going to be sending out an email, if not this afternoon, on Monday morning. And then we're going to follow up and try to see what we can identify for this fall and for this upcoming academic year to lay the foundation. And so with that, that is the end of our, presentation. So we want to thank you again. And Stephanie McIntyre, I know she wants to thank you as well.
Absolutely. I would love to thank you in advance. Thank you to those of you who have already been a part of the engagement in UCS, and there's so much opportunity to grow. So I look forward to supporting that along with you.
And got a comment from one of our attendees that she's very excited about this program and really looking forward to being a part of it. And we're looking forward to you being a part of it. So thank you all. And like I said, you'll receive some news from Stephanie or myself at the latest on Monday morning. Thank you. Have a good rest of the evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.